Karnataka Special Investigation Team revealed that Prajwal Revanna allegedly subjected a former JDS Zilla Panchayat member in Hassan, which happens to be his constituency, it used to be, and also happens to be the woman's constituency, to sexually assault her for 3 consecutive years. 3 years! This charge sheet, which runs into 1,691 pages, has testimonies from 120 witnesses following a complaint by the JDS's former Zilla Panchayat member, which she filed on 13th of September 2024. Now, let's take a look at the horrifying revelations in the charge sheet. On your screens right now, Prajwal Revanna reportedly raped his own party leader, the then Zilla Panchayat member, at his official residence, mind you, in Hassan. Now, at the time, Prajwal Revanna, who was MP of Hassan, was using the MP quarters which had been allotted to his grandfather and the former Prime Minister, Shri H.D. Devegowda. Shocking? More shockers coming in. The survivor between January and February 2020 had met Prajwal to request for hostel seats for some of the students. So that was the reason for the meeting. Now, during the meeting, when the survivor was the only one left, Prajwal allegedly would grab her hands and drag her into a room. What audacity, won't you agree? Inside the room, the alleged accused Prajwal Revanna also proceeded to threaten her, saying that he was in possession of a gun and would kill her husband if she did not undress. How shameful is that? Prajwal allegedly also recorded a video insisting she keeps a smile on her face even as he continued to violate her. I mean, clearly a psycho. Now, 2 days after the first assault at his official residence, Prajwal allegedly telephoned the survivor saying that the video had not been deleted. Blackmail. He apparently threatened her as follows: "If you do not come to the NP quarters in 5 minutes, I will leak the video. It is only your face that is visible and not mine in the video." Blackmail once again. Without the survivor's consent or knowledge, this man took screenshots and recorded video calls with the woman's Zilla Parishad member. He used phone numbers registered under his social media staff to make these calls. You know what is worse? Prajwal invited the woman to his father and MLA H.D. Revanna's residence in Hole Narsipura and sexually violated her for the umpteenth time. Did you see that it has criminal intimidation, it has blackmail? Of course, it is about power. It is about a powerful man using all the powers that he has to exploit someone who is a helpless Zilla Panchayat member, that woman. Also, he happened to be threatening her at all times. Imagine someone is following you all the time, mentally and physically. Imagine to be at the beck and call of a predator who is the most powerful politician in your constituency and also, of course, with a great legacy. Imagine sitting at a family function and being summoned by the man day in and day out only to be violated. Now, if this is not pure evil, then what is? And today, we have the Gowda family wanting us all to move on and forget what they think is an aberration. Seriously? H.D. Kumaraswamy may be a minister in Delhi. Devegowda, of course, is a much respected former Prime Minister. But the stink that Prajwal has raised has risen up for all of us to actually retch collectively. Think about it. The next story, which is coming up on the South Indian, it's a double whammy for Kerala as the state reels under both Nipah and monkeypox outbreaks. So that's the story. Kerala reels under Nipah and monkeypox. Kerala is once again grappling with the threat of Nipah. This is the second Nipah outbreak in the state this year and the sixth since the virus was first detected in the state in 2018. Kozhikode in particular witnessed Nipah outbreaks in 2018. 2021, and yet again in 2023. Malappuram too reported Nipah cases in 2018 and yet again in July and September of this very year. Ernakulam too has reported Nipah cases in the past. But you know what stood out in Ernakulam is that it happened to be the only district in which the primary case did not result in the death of the patient, which is actually good news. But why? Scientists must be wondering. In all other outbreaks in other places, the primary cases resulted in the eventual death of the patient. Now, the government has issued repeated directives in September last year to conduct extensive surveillance in Kozhikode, which is one of the epicenters of the outbreak, but not much headway has been made. While the health department's efforts to contain Nipah were initially seen as a success, the World Health Organization pointed out that there were lapses in collecting timely and accurate data to better understand the epidemiology and the clinical and virological characteristics of Nipah. You know what? Another question which yet remains unanswered is that why is the Nipah outbreak localized to Kerala? I'm not sitting on judgment here. I'm just trying to figure out why. While it is agreed that fruit bats of a specific variety are perhaps responsible for spread of the virus, the reason behind the human transmission also remains unclear. There is, a missing link between the animal and the human transmission of the virus. And this is perhaps the reason why creating preventive strategies against Nipah has been a challenge for health authorities. Now, health experts also say that environmental factors play a very important role in the spread of the virus. In order to understand the disease's root cause, a deeper examination of the wildlife and their habitats is required. And guess what? Nipah is not only the cause of concern for health authorities in Kerala. A suspected case of monkeypox has also been reported in Malappuram. The suspected patients had recently returned from Dubai and started manifesting symptoms. The question is, what makes Kerala vulnerable to these virus outbreaks? That is first question. Without sitting on judgment, of course, and what is the missing link between animal to human transmission? Let me now welcome all the guests, the experts on the panel, doctors, Dr. Ajit Bhaskar, Professor of Pulmonology and State Secretary PEPS IMA in Kerala, and Dr. V. Ramankutti, Public Health Expert from Kerala. A very, very warm welcome to both of you. Dr. Bhaskar, I want to come to you first, and without really sitting on judgment, let's take the case of Nipah, Doctor. Kerala has been able to contain it. They are very, very quick insofar as detecting, the symptoms are concerned, the cases are concerned. Like for instance, in Malappuram now, they told all the contacts of this patient who passed away, who had come from Bengaluru, the 24-year-old, to kind of mask up everything. But there is one thing I want to ask you, because, I know that it is very silly, but the next time we hear about COVID and we hear about, China, our ears will perk up and say, oh, not again. So is there something, I've been talking to a lot of people, they say, look, Kerala, the boundaries between the forests and the human habitats is very less. Is that one of the reasons that we see such frequent outbreaks, Dr. Bhaskar?
Well, I don't think that you need a forest to have an outbreak of Nipah. Probably a bat that is infested with Nipah virus or a pig could start off be such an endemic. So the first time when it occurred way back in sometime in 2017, it occurred in the tiny hamlet of Perambra. There, that incident, I don't know whether you remember, 2 persons who came from Malappuram at that time to a hospital where one of the Nipah patients was admitted. They traveled through the CT scanning room, and probably these 2 people got affected. They had nothing to do with bat infestation at that time. So that was the severity of infection in 2017, where we lost about 17 to 18 people. Only 1 person survived. We also lost so many people. Now, here, last year also, about 1 month back also, we had an outbreak of Nipah in Malappuram again. So probably one of the reasons is that maybe there is an endemic area in Malappuram and some of the bats were tested positive for Nipah virus. And Sperambra, Nadapuram, those were the areas where the biologists came down and they checked up and they were able to identify one or two isolates of the virus in bats also. So how it came, probably these bats must be harboring the virus, and sometimes it gets it gets into its mode then and outbreaks of it. But I don't think there is anything to be alarmed about, because this is basically an endemic disease and spreads only from bats to humans.
Yeah.
And maybe or an infected human. And it doesn't spread by air. It's not an airborne.
Of course. I mean, fruit bats are supposed to be the carriers of it. But the question is, Dr. V. Ramankutti, if I can have you on the screen, Dr. Ramankutti, is that bats to human beings. Now, every time there's been an outbreak, and I have discussed it on the South Indian, the show, because it is just to, not to alarm people, sir, but just to inform people, as it's always been our endeavor. Bats to human beings. The thing is that, look at it, I mean, doctors have told me, suppose a bat bites into a fruit, just a hypothetical, and my child happens to be walking under that tree, picks up that fruit and eats it. I know it may sound preposterous, but we've spoken about how the spread can happen. After all, scientists only trace it back like that. Then the child can get, get infected. But in this case, this man came from Bengaluru. This 24-year-old, I am not saying that he was not in contact with someone who may have had Nipah virus in Bengaluru. Of course, he unfortunately lost his life in Kerala. But what I am trying to say, Dr. Ramankutti, is that this animal to human transmission, how well has this been researched? Do you think that is the root cause finally?
Well, that seems to be the consensus. We actually are not very sure. I mean, these are still being investigated, but it's almost everybody seems to agree that there is an element of animal to human transmission, and this has happened in areas like Malaysia, then I think Bangladesh. Everywhere this outbreak has happened, they have traced it to bats and basically bats. So. And they really don't know why, because these viruses do not seem to be causing any problem to the bats. So what happens when it gets into the human is whether it probably gets mutated and becomes just like in the COVID case, something which is residing very peacefully in the animal. When it crosses the species barrier, becomes pathogen. And interestingly, this has been only reported from very localized areas, and that is something which is very intriguing. And they have suggested that this is something to do with areas where there is animal-man conflict, in the sense, when their habitat is kind of encroached upon, or they become agitated. There is a theory that it actually secretes more viruses when the bats are stressed. So all these things are still conjecture. We don't know, but the only thing we know is that it happens in individuals, local places, and one of them is Kerala, especially in the north of Kerala, Kozhikode and Malappuram. So we really have to study what is happening.
Right. So that's what, exactly, Dr. Ramankutti. Dr. Bhaskar, this is what I began with, that it's intriguing. However, those are the reasons. The man-animal transmission, which seems to be a mystery, that's not been yet solved. And for people who live outside Kerala, certain names keep coming up. Malappuram, Ernakulam, Kozhikode, these names keep coming up. I mean, according to Dr. Ramankutti, he says it's being, of course, we still have no answers to this, but there seems to be a connection. Is it because of, the stress that the bats feel, etc., etc.? But Dr. Ajit Bhaskar, despite the point that the government, and Veena George has again said that we are containing it, there are containment zones, why is it that there is not enough information which is coming out? To say that if these areas are vulnerable, then we better do something about it. After all, some species are more vulnerable to certain diseases than the rest. You know that as a doctor.
Well, that is not absolutely the truth, because see, last month we lost one boy at the age of 14 years. That was just last, probably somewhere in July. Young boy, 14 years. And we don't know whether July, sometimes you have these summer holidays and they go out and play in the fields, maybe climb up the trees, and they explore and they might have eaten a fruit which has been bitten or embedded with saliva or the urine of bats. Now, let me also tell you that not all the Nipah viruses are infected. There are non-infectious Nipah virus is also being picked up. So
Right.
probably maybe some mutation or some of the infective varieties, the unfortunate patient would have had, but you can't say it is an outbreak. Hardly one patient has been affected and all the other 16 to 20 contacts have been tested negative.
No, but yes, Dr.
Now-
Bas, I'm happy that
Yes.
they have been, but look at the work that you have to do. You have to trace back all the contacts. If I've come from abroad, let's say I've come from Dubai, then all those contacts have to be traced. There is a lot of work and it creates unnecessary panic. After all, Dr. Bhaskar, when there was report that some people were dying of brain amoeba or in some such thing in Kerala, it was seen to it that because they were swimming in the pond and because of that through the nostrils, I just feel to contain Nipah is fantastic. Like I say, the way Kerala controlled COVID made it to world headlines, sir, under Shailaja madam. But I'm saying that why is it that despite 4 or 5 outbreaks, there is no kind of, a chart. Like you gave us a chart during COVID. You gave us a chart during this pond and said, do not swim unnecessarily into these ponds. Tell your children not to go there. There is no specific SOP for this, is what my question is,
Yes.
Dr. Bhaskar.
No, there are specific SOPs. We eat clean, and when you eat food or when you're handling animals like pigs or this thing, make sure that you wear a mask and you don't physically get into contact with the secretions or droppings of the pigs or pigs, especially when you are having a Nipah outbreak. Now, COVID is different because that was an airborne disease and it was an epidemic. So let's be very clear about this. This is an endemic where only few people have, even the first episode when it occurred way back in 1998, if I remember correctly, there were about 285 cases and about 40% of them died. That's about 105 to 106, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So that was the first episode. So yeah, even in that outbreak, when they were not diagnosed initially because they thought it was Japanese encephalitis. Now what happened was, even those people who were vaccinated against Japanese encephalitis, they also developed this disease and succumbed. And that was the time when these doctors thought in the initial episode of 1998 somewhere, they thought that it was something fishy because even people who were vaccinated for encephalitis, they also got the disease. That was the time when they picked up and later PCR and all those things came up and they picked up Nipah virus.
Right.
But virus has been there even earlier as in 1960.
All right. Yeah,
But
sure.
the infective variety comes up only sporadically. Yeah. And one more thing. Now, it is probably every person is
Okay.
genetically different. So you have your 23 pairs of chromosomes. The chromosome mapping is entirely different, and one person might be a little more susceptible than the others. So that
Sure,
is the
like I
something
said,
called as the genetic
you are
mapping.
sure the genetic makeup, it does matter. But my question is once again, if you look at it from the layman's perspective, Dr. Ramankutti, I want you to answer 2 questions for me, please, sir. One is monkeypox, where this man returned from Dubai and now the first case of monkeypox in Kerala has been. Is it dangerous, Dr. Ramankutti? Do you think this will also be, fall into the cyclical thing of whether it's an endemic or whether it is an epidemic or a disease or airborne or waterborne or touchborne, whatever? Do you think it's dangerous at all? Should one worry? Should people with comorbidities worry?
It could certainly be dangerous, but the interesting thing about monkeypox is that it's not like Nipah. It is a different, because it seems to be changing very fast.
Right.
They have traced that the kind of monkeypox which appeared some time back in Africa, and so that is a completely. It was actually limited to men having sex with men and certain groups. But this new strain seems to have no such limitations.
All right.
It is so it's a different, but basically the virus is the same, but it has mutations. So this is a different kind of monkeypox, and they have the World Health Organization's calculation is that it can be contained by vaccination, But unfortunately, we don't have enough vaccines to kind of cover the whole population in
Right.
Africa, let alone other parts of the
Yeah.
world. So that
Okay.
is how it's more
Yeah.
dangerous.
Also, doctor, I wanted to here quote the World Health Organization. They said that not enough research has been done, clinical trials, to understand the transmission level of Nipah between animal habitats and human habitats. Would you agree that we still are at
Absolutely.
a very nascent stage, Raman Kuti sir, although we are having cases, and like Dr. Bhaskar said, we had a teenager lose his life, some time ago. So the thing is that again and again you see Nipah, of course, I keep reiterating this. I should not be seen as someone who's cherry picking on Kerala. We see that it's being contained, the health minister comes, enough. But then the point is, isn't it time now after 5 outbreaks to see, I mean, I just don't understand that, eating a fruit or, which is bitten by a bat. How do I know there are 10 bats sitting on this people tree under which I'm, actually going for because I've also spoken to other doctors who said some of them were just passing from under the tree and it could have happened, So the thing is, do you agree that we need more solid research, sir?
Absolutely, I would agree 100% with you. See, the things that so-called experts say now, the same things that they said during the first outbreak. They have not added one bit of information because they don't know anything more. And that is because nobody has done any research. And I think we are waiting for somebody else to do the research, which will not happen because Nipah is not a priority. If you take internationally, it is, number of people affected, number of deaths happening, so few. But it is a priority for people in Kerala because it's happening here, right here. So it is our responsibility that we should initiate research. Unfortunately, that is not happening in spite of the fact that the government of Kerala seems to be saying that our policy thrust in public health is going to be one health. The concept of one health is that animal health, human health, everything should be considered. I mean, they should not be in separate compartments. We should consider health as one thing and then do research on that. That concept is called One Health. And we reiterate everywhere that we are going the way of One Health, we are doing One Health. But I don't know what One Health they are doing because if they can't, I mean, this seems to be an ideal problem for One Health. So
right. Yes, I hear you. I hear you, doctor. Dr. Bhaskar, tell me something. Should I be worried because you're a doctor? I'm sure you wear a mask all the time because I remember during, I've interviewed you many times. Today, the first time I'm seeing your face actually, Dr. Bhaskar. Good to see you, without the mask. But the point is that I'm sitting, I'm teaching, let us say in Ernakulam or Malappuram in a school or a professor, in a college. How do I safeguard myself from the Nipah virus? I know it's not airborne. How does one protect oneself and others when the symptoms are very similar? Apparently, correct me if I'm wrong, you have some, cold and, very viral fever kind of symptoms. But don't you think that instead of letting oneself be vulnerable, if I'm teaching in Malappuram, Ernakulam, Kozhikode, how does one solve this?
Well, cleanliness is next to godliness. If you are clean,
Right.
it is very unlikely that you are going to. And if you follow the Bharatiya Samskar, like saying namaste rather than shaking hands, because you do not know your closest friend giving you a shake hand might be infected with Nipah virus. How will you know? So during these infective episodes, even without infective episode, it is always better to keep a safe distance. Wash your hands after touching anyone giving shake hands or touching anybody. For example, for all of us, after touching a patient, we sanitize our hands. And of course, since I'm a doctor, whenever we see a patient, they come with all sorts of respiratory infections, but we always wear a mask. So this time it's not loaded. I had kept this section 1 hour free for this. That's why I'm not wearing a mask right now. So Nipah, you be clean, use soap and water to wash your hands frequently. Avoid handshakes and avoid eating foods which are not washed. Even if somebody offers you a food which is not cut, make sure that you wash it properly, nicely with water and soap. Clean it before and take off the skin of the food because it is where it could have been contaminated. So These are the main things. So I don't think you should be worried if you're a teacher in Malappuram, Ernakulam, or Kozhikode. Nothing is going to happen to you unless you are careless and we have unclean habits like not, washing our hands properly and not wearing a mask when you're going to a hospital or in a crowded place. And again, let me make it very clear that Nipah is not transmitted through, aerosols. It is by close contact and droplets, by close contact from either animal to human or human to human, an infected human. That is the only way you can get it. So whenever you are going to some place or pray, keep yourself clean. That's all. I don't think you should be much worried about this.
All right. And on that note, on that note, I've completely run out of time. Dr. Ajit Bhaskar, thank you very much for joining us on this. Of course, we require more research. Like Dr. V. Ramankutty said, we need to figure out the transmission link between these fruit bats and human beings, also between urban jungles and urban habitats. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramankutty, for joining us on this broadcast about Nipah as well as monkeypox. Coming up, next story is a political story. It's coming from Karnataka. Ramesh Jarkioli challenges BY Vijayendera's leadership. Will he be able to survive the rebellion? The man on the screen right now, coming up after the break.
Give it to me, pass.
We'll put new glasses in the windows and they keep breaking it. This is the fourth time. You are playing football throughout the day. Will you win the world by playing football?
Yes, uncle. I will now conquer the world by playing football. Let's go to Germany.
World's largest football talent hunt, News 9 Indian Tigers and Tigresses. In association with DFB Pokal, Bundesliga, BVB and India Football Center. Train and play matches in Europe. Register now and fly to Germany. IndianTigersandTigresses.com.
PM Modi is the first ever Indian Prime Minister to visit Ukraine. His visit comes 2 years after around 17,000 Indian students were safely evacuated amidst the Russia-Ukraine war under his leadership. Watch Airlift, the story of how the evacuations unfolded, only on the News 9 Plus app.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Joe Biden is not going to be the Democratic presidential nominee.
I made my choice. Kamala Harris. She's experienced. She's tough. She's capable.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
I am the one saving democracy.
He has tapped in to the fear and anxiety about demographic change in the US.
This polarization in the United States. Some people are even suggesting that there could be a civil war.
You are this unable to solve your own domestic problems. You have no right to claim to be anybody else in the world. And we're moving into a multipolar world where the United States will not lead.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Fast. My God, isn't she your daughter?
Yes.
She's playing football. This is boys' game. Make her study. If she doesn't get a good job, she will get a good match. Will you win the world by playing football?
Go! Yes, auntie. My daughter will win the world by playing football.
Let's go to Germany.
World's largest football talent hunt, News 9 Indian Tigers and Tigresses. In association with DFB Pokal, Bundesliga, BVB and India Football Center. Train and play matches in Europe. Register now and fly to Germany. IndianTigersandTigresses.com.
All right, that's the third story that we are doing. Simmering discontent against Vijayendera. You know what? It is unheard of in the BJP. Internal rebellions and skirmishes are not tolerated in the cadre-based party. The kind of rebellion which has unfolded in the Karnataka BJP does not augur well, and particularly at a time when the opposition, that is the BJP and the JDS, they are mounting charges of corruption against Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his government in the Muda and Valmiki scams. But then it has happened, and disgruntled leader and former minister Ramesh Jarkioli has publicly said that he shall not accept the leadership of BJP state president BY Vijayendera at any cost. Ramesh said, and let me quote him here, he is too junior and does not know anything about the party's ideology. In fact, Mr. Vijayendera has given the party the label of being corrupt. We will not accept him as our leader, but we accept his father and veteran leader as our leader. That father and veteran leader being B.S. Yediyurappa. It's a well-kept secret that Ramesh Jarkioli has been publicly criticizing Vijayendera's leadership. And even though he ostensibly did not target senior most leader Yediyurappa, who is Vijayendera's father, but he did make some insinuations. He said, and I am quoting him here, after the death of Anant Kumar, the party has not seen any big leader in Karnataka. Instead of providing authority to any particular leader, the party should opt for collective leadership. We should prevent the tendency of party coming under the stranglehold of any one particular leader. So there you have it. As a solution to replace Vijayendera, Ramesh Jarkioli has proposed what he calls collective leadership. That is distributing responsibility to 15 to 20 leaders, including of course himself and Basanagowda Patil Yatnal. But then Vijayendera is very nonplussed by all this and reminded his detractors that the central leadership, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, National President J.P. Nadda and Union Home Minister Amit Shah, appointed him as party state president and have reposed their trust in him. You know what, even as Prime Minister Modi is relentless in increasing his party's footprint in the south of India, Karnataka, which has actually been a jewel in his crown, seems to be facing a clear and dangerous challenge. Let's talk to the experts. Professor Chambi Puranik, senior political analyst, is with us, and Dr. Baswaraj Itnal, senior journalist and political analyst, is also with us. A very warm welcome to both of you. Professor Chambi Puranik, good to see you. Professor Puranik, yesterday was Prime Minister Modi's birthday, and I did a special show about the challenges that he faces in the south. He's done everything possible, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, everywhere. But the thing is, somehow, although the vote share has increased for the BJP, he is unable to actually enter, the south of India. Look at what is happening in Karnataka, where the party was so powerful at one time. You've seen it, the trajectory of the BJP, when Yediyurappa and others had actually seen to it that, that the party is right on top. We had even Mr. Bommai as chief minister, but today, look at this open rebellion. They have been targeting Vijayendera from the day he has taken over. But now it is all out in the open. He is ignorant, he doesn't know anything, he is corrupt. They are also targeting the father. What is going on in Karnataka BJP, Professor Saab?
I think Sudha, as you rightly mentioned, that BJP is committing a harakiri, in my opinion, because, see, having been defeated in the assembly elections, somehow in the parliament elections, they performed well, I should say better than what the kind of Waterloo they faced in state assembly elections, so that was one signal for BJP to get united. And these people, the leaders, they are all frustrated lot, I think. See, Ramesh Jarkioli himself, is not having any particular ideology, but he has ideology of his own personal growth or whatever power that he wants to take. So therefore, his words or opposition, open rebellion has no credibility as far as, my assessment is concerned. Second thing is, Yatnal also, much more serious, and he was also talking against Yediyurappa and his son and family and all that. So that has also not worked. Ultimately, the party is the beneficiary if they are united. If they are not united, and if this kind of whatever the kind of small or negligible rebellion takes place, it will damage the image of the party. But I don't think the party as a whole is behind Ramesh Jarkiwali and others. They are hardly about 20-25 people. The problem with Ramesh Jarkiwali is he is a person who is ready to win elections in any party. So not that. So when he speaks of ideology, he has no ideology. So that means to say, I don't see it as a great threat to BY Vijayendera, because Ramesh Jarkiwali himself said we have a lot of respect for Yediyurappa. Now he is very old. Let the party consult him, but not his son to lead and all that. Collective leadership. BJP is nothing but collective leadership. Only problem is there are people like Ramesh Jarkiwali and Yattal who are always there. You know, they have their own self, whatever the kind of area power, and that's why BJP is not taking action against them. High command is very weak in this aspect. That is in suppressing the rebellion and all. So therefore, I would say this is only a temporary phase. If minus Yediyurappa and BY Vijayendera, I don't think BJP will have the same kind of support in future. If,
but it's also, but you know what, Dr. Itnal, if I can bring you here, Dr. Itnal, it's also about perception. You know, the thing is that they lost power. Now you see that, you know, we all know that, you know, the way the central leadership was somewhere very guilty that they took Yediyurappa screaming away from the chair. Of course, Vijayendera was placed as the head of the state BJP unit. But this kind of rebellion, I mean, I know that both Basavagowda Yatnal and also Ramesh Jarkiwali are motor mouths. Maybe they talk too much like, you know, Bandi Sanjay in Telangana. But the point is that what is the central leadership doing? What is the kind of message? Because it is pouring cold water on all the scams that they are, you know, actually charging the Siddaramaiah government with. So it is counterproductive, no, Dr. Itnal?
See, as far as optics is concerned, for the political party of BJP in Karnataka, it really reflects very poor. No, it's very, very, very bad optics, number one. Number two, now coming from Ramesh Jarkiwali, somebody else would have said about party ideology and discipline, things would be, could be taken seriously. When Ramesh Jarkiwali, he himself came from Congress, and he himself does not have any inkling about what is any ideology, whether it is BJP ideology or Congress ideology, he has got nothing to do with any ideology. And that man is talking about, you know, after party ideology and after Anant Kumar, there was no top leader. He is intentionally taking the name of Mr. Anant Kumar because Mr. Yediyurappa was not in good terms with Anant Kumar.
Right.
You should remember the kind of charges, the kind of criticism Yediyurappa made when he had joined, when he had created the Karnataka Janata Party in 2013.
Right.
Choicest of the words are used to criticize Anant Kumar, and it was no secret that Anant Kumar and Yediyurappa were at loggerheads all the time. Not just once, all the time.
Right.
Having said that, especially in the South, especially you're mentioning about Mr. Modi's concern about the South.
Yeah.
Probably whether it is Mr. Modi or Amit Shah or anybody even in Sangh cadre, RSS cadre, doesn't understand the uniqueness of southern states. In Karnataka, they could get a gateway towards South, not by winning even halfway mark of seats. They did not, they never crossed halfway mark in elections. Number one. Number two, and why could they reach even to a position where they could stake their claim to form the government? That is because, not because of Sangh Parivar's ideology. It is because between 1999 and 2004, most of erstwhile Janata leaders, they came to BJP.
Right.
Janata leaders had got nothing to do with RSS ideology. So in Karnataka, BJP's roots are different. They cannot apply the same thing, same formula or same kind of thinking they would apply, for example, in Gujarat.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Okay.
They have to understand the uniqueness of this place.
Right. You know, Professor Puranik, we also saw, you know, Puranik, that, you know, we saw earlier also that, you know, there were allegations that this Vijayendera is actually the mouthpiece of DK Shivakumar. He is hand in glove. He's got all the videos and the pen drives of Prajwal Revanna's terrible deeds, etc. Look at the pic. You know, there is a narrative which is being created. Professor Puranik, do you think it is easy to shake not Vijayendera but Yediyurappa's son so easily, is my question to you.
Yeah, and I quite agree with you, because without Vijayendera, what is Vijayendera? After all, he is a young leader who is son of Yediyurappa. when you speak of dynastic politics, Congress has no moral right to talk about it. And within BJP itself, no, I mean, as Mr. Basuraj Etnal mentioned, in BJP, the kind of whatever strength of BJP to win elections is because of the efforts of it. You see, he commands about 9 to 11% of votes of Lingaites. Without that, I don't think BJP will have 4 votes. It could be much more. So therefore, now it is an opportune moment for BJP to revive and stay united in case there is a by-election or some other political developments take place because of the court case against Mr. Siddaramaiah and the change of leader. But so many aspirants in Congress, I don't think Congress government is going to be stable in future because the allegations are there, the inquiry has to be held, whether it has to be done or not, the court has to give judgment, and the very fact that judiciary has taken or judge has taken so much time itself shows there is something that's going to happen which is in a very big way a setback to Congress. So
and then that's worse news for the BJP, Professor? Because
that's what I'm saying.
Worst.
Yeah, that's worst news. But if you are not united, certainly you are not going to win that. It's going to be again in anybody's game. Therefore, I'm not saying Vijayendera himself will muster the votes. This is the time for BJP to fight against corruption unitedly because they were unseated or defeated only in the name of corruption. So it's the right kind of time for them to take up such issues, larger issues, than saying individual or this leader or that leader collective. The very fact idea of collective leadership, I don't think it will work in Karnataka. It has to be some top leaders and perhaps Vijayendera also. They are jealous of Vijayendera.
Yeah, but
he makes, he succeeds. He succeeds in
I think it's Professor Saab, it's very absurd to say collective leadership 15-20. I mean, there'll be no accountability, sir. We all know this. There is one boss and there are others, executors. That's how it works, particularly in a cadre-based party like the BJP. Dr. Etnal, tell me something. There are also allegations. Forget about the corruption allegations against Vijayendera. Forget about the point that this is dynastic politics. He's the son of Yadurappa. The point is, he is not even his caste strongman. He is not seen as a strong Lingayat leader. He is not seen as anybody who can actually cut any ice. Do you think not his young age, but his inexperience and being in the shadow of his father will prove perhaps, a kind of a red flag for him?
So the youth, young age is synonymous with the lack of experience. And when BJP appointed Vijayendera, they should know this. And why did they appoint? Because they had suffered huge setback, because they sidelined Yadurappa. It is their decision. And this language they are talking about collective leadership and the party should not be entrusted with one individual. This is the very language B.L. Santosh and Prahlad Joshi were talking in 2000 in the run-up to 2023 elections, and they lost. This very thinking, very ideology has lost them the numbers. No, what is he talking about? What is his plan of getting 120 numbers? He is saying in his letter that he will get around 126. What is his game plan? Who are the leaders? And to me, it appears, my mind, it appears as if it is RSS against striking at Yadurappa. Because the kind of terminology that you see, the collective leadership, one man should not be the commander, and Anand Kumar being mentioned, and Sangh ideology being mentioned, what does it mean? And Etnal has been talking about what? Etnal is a hardcore Hindutva ideologue. And he talks so vehemently, openly against minorities. And that is... and he is posing up to RSS forces. And this is again because what happened is in the last two Padayatras, one for this Valmiki ST board scam, and another was Muda scam. There were two Padayatras. For one Padayatra, one leader was. For one faction did not come to this, and this faction did not go there. So there is a clear division.
So it's very interesting, the B.L. Santosh factor and also the RSS, the voice behind the curtain, as it were. That's a very interesting theory that you've put forward, Dr. Etnal, and that's why We always say that, senior journalists and political analysts bring that much of gravitas to any kind of a discussion. Let me thank both of you. Professor Puranik, thank you very much, sir. And Dr. Itnal, such a pleasure always to have both of you on the show. Thank you indeed, sir. Coming up, Andhra Pradesh government announces relief package for flood victims. That's our next story. Look at that, rupees 10,000 crore relief package for flood victims in Andhra Pradesh. There you have it, the Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. You know what? This was the worst flood and heaviest spell of rains in the history of Andhra Pradesh. The deluge felt by state left thousands marooned and homeless. For the newly elected Chandrababu Naidu, it came as one of the biggest challenges of his political career. With the state exchequer running dry, he had a near impossible task on hand. But now, the government of Andhra Pradesh at last finally announced a relief package for the flood impacted people of the state. The figure quoted is around 10,000 crores, although the final figure is still awaited. There are still calculations going on. But it looks like this, 25,000 to each family living on the ground floor, and if their house was inundated, 10,000 to be paid to each family living on the first and above floors. Look at the detailing, ladies and gentlemen. A compensation of 25,000 to be paid to petty traders and vendors. A compensation of 6,000 per acre for sericulture, 25,000 per acre for sugarcane, 10,000 per acre for paddy. In addition, a compensation of 3,000 and 10,000 for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, auto owners who suffered losses. Similarly, 9,000 to be paid to fishermen if the boat and net loss was partial, and 20,000 in case of complete damage that is felt by a fisherman. Again, look at the minute detailing. Weavers are supposed to be paid 15,000 for MSMEs with a turnover of 40 lakh to 1.5 crores. A compensation of 1 lakh would be paid and 1.5 lakh if the turnover was above 1.5 crores. Chandrababu Naidu also announced that the banks had been instructed very clearly to provide consumption loans for houses. A loan of 50,000 with a 36-month repayment period and a 3-month moratorium for ground floor houses. Similarly, 25,000 loan with a 36-month repayment period and a 3-month moratorium for the first floor and above houses in the limits of 1979 Sachivalayas. For shops, commercial establishments, the banks have agreed to reschedule payments for 12 months. There are going to be more details, but I think it's one of the most detailed flood relief packages released by any state chief minister. And as always, I leave you with some of the other top headlines from the south of India. Thank you for watching. Namaskaram.
Pre-tournament billing, delivering a series of less than convincing performances with 2 draws and a solitary win.
Your son will be Messi. No studies, just football all day. Go, my son, go. Make my face shine through playing football.
Not only your face, but also the country's. I will conquer the world by playing football. Come, let's go to Germany.
World's largest football talent hunt, News 9 Indian Tigers and Tigresses. In association with DFB Pokal, Bundesliga, BVB and India Football Center. Train and play matches in Europe. Register now and fly to Germany. IndianTigersandTigresses.com.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
Following its merger with the Tata Group's flagship airline Air India, the decade-old flight of Vistara Airlines will soon be history. Come November 11th, all Vistara flights will begin to be operated by Air India. How will the Vistara Air India merger affect flyovers? Well, News 9 Plus decodes. Let us first discuss how the merger came about. In 2022, the Tata Group acquired Air India, the erstwhile national carrier, from the government. On the August 30th, 2024, the government approved Singapore Airlines' investment